Hi, Laura here from Six Figure Writing Secrets, and today I want to cover part one of a two-part video series. We're getting close to wrapping up 2016, and I was just reflecting back on, things that worked and didn't work, and not just in 2016, but some of the things I tried towards the end of 2015 as well that were either really effective or just did not translate in my business. One of my goals for hosting this blog and for making these videos is to give people more insight into what works and what doesn't work. I feel like there's a lot of advice out there, especially about freelancing, that tells you to sort of, try everything and everything works great. And my goal as a freelance coach is to make sure that these websites and these marketing methods and these types of projects are still in demand and are still something that will actually work in your business as a marketing tool or as a type of delivery. So here are 5 things that just didn't work in my business. Number one is a big one, and I'm going to go into much more detail with this one on a future podcast. But just to sort of recap, the number one thing that just did not work for me in my business was outsourcing my writing work to others. It was just so frustrating. The clients were unhappy. I was unhappy. It was never enjoyable and profitable at the same time. There were mistakes that got through because I was overloaded and kind of trusted these writers to do a good job. And a lot of them were careless. Some of them tried to submit duplicate work. Sometimes it just wasn't what the client was looking for. And I really outsourced most of my business over the course of 2015. And because of that, I was now in a managerial position. Found out I hated being a manager, especially of other writers, on the projects that I was working on. So that just did not work in my business. Now it might work for you if you find that you're doing too much writing and you'd rather be in that manager position. Outsourcing to others might work. For me, I was dealing with a lot of customer service issues with my clients. They were unhappy. Even times where I had to go back and forth with the writer and say, this isn't what we were looking for. This isn't the quality that we need. Dealing with invoices, the biggest headache of my life was making sure everybody got paid. It was a constant juggling act of money coming in from the clients and money going out to the freelancers, and then, figuring out what is left for me and to run these other aspects of the business. We had to have memberships to a huge stock photo website, for example. So we had to download something like 400 or 600 pictures a month for one contract I was working on with this outsourced team, and just keeping up with all of that was more administratively than I wanted to do. So for me, number one, outsourcing to other writers. Not sure I will ever do that again. I much prefer a business model doing it myself. And I know that there's caps and limits with that. But for me, it's much better to work on a handful of really good projects that I do completely by myself. I hold myself accountable. I meet the deadlines. There's not 10,000 emails that I'm receiving from people about why they've missed the deadline or why something was turned in, without the proper care that it should have been. Just dealing with all that absolutely exhausted me. And I felt like I had created a job at home. So never again, number one. Number two, cold calling. Maybe this works for some people, but I do not have the time to wait to see if someone will get back to me. I don't have hours and hours to put together a cold calling phone list, to sit down and make the calls, to try to get my call through to the right person. There's a lot of gatekeepers today. I was a gatekeeper when I worked at an insurance agency. My job was to make sure as few marketing calls got through to the manager of the office and the president of the company as possible. So I'm just not totally convinced that cold calling is ever really going to work for my business. It seems like such a huge investment of time to maybe get so little back. So no, not doing that anymore. Number 3, cold emailing. Now, there's something to be said for warm emailing, and there may even be something to be said for cold emailing, because I know lots of freelance writers who rely on cold emailing. They love it as a marketing technique. For me, though, it has not worked. Maybe that's because of my industry. Most of what I'm providing content to is the legal and the insurance industry. It never even makes it to the right person. If it does, there's a good chance they just delete it or write back and ask to be taken off the list. I had a project last year where we sent over 2,000 cold emails to people. I got one client from it, one recurring client. So not worth it. Definitely not worth outsourcing all those emails to other people, because it just did not translate in any meaningful way to my business. So not doing that again. Maybe warm emailing will help, something to try in 2017. I like test driving these things to tell my audience about whether it's worth their time investing in it. You hear a lot about these marketing methods, but what works and what actually does not work. Now, the methods I'm sharing with you, they might work for other people. It's just something to keep in mind. I just like to be candid. The way that I choose to run my business is as a lifestyle business, so I can take time off. I only work with clients I like. I only work a certain number of hours per week. So that has pros and cons to keep in mind. And maybe that's why cold calling and cold emailing just don't translate to me. The loop, the feedback loop to hear back from these clients, it seems like it takes forever. Just, it's not worth it for me. Number 4, some paid job boards. Now, I talk a lot about Upwork. I still like Upwork. It's still a component of my business, but it's not all of my business for sure. It used to be 95% of my freelance business when I got started, and now it's much, much smaller. And I'm more comfortable with that because you should never put all your eggs in one basket. You know, what if they go bankrupt? What if they ban you from the site, or, you know, the whole thing crashes? Who knows? You should never rely on that entirely. It's still a great source for leads and job opportunities, but I don't rely on it completely. However, there are some other job boards that were not even worth a 1-month membership. Guru, Freelancer, iWriter, Writer Access, Text Broker has got to be one of the worst, like one of the lowest paid. I mean, I've checked all these out because I hear from freelancers that they're hearing about it as a way to get started, or the freelancer has actually tried to get started on the site and wants to know if it's legit. I had one paid job on Text Broker when I first got started, and it was something ridiculous, like $7 for a 300-word article. And I never even ended up getting paid for it because it just sat in my account, and you had to have a minimum of like $25 to withdraw it. So total waste of my time. I mean, I'm glad I tried it. I've been back in there since to even consider hiring some writers. It just seems really low bar. For writers, I'm not sure that Guru and Freelancer are good sites. There are some other ones out there that I'm investigating and will have reports for you in the future. Outsource.com is one of them. Contena, which is a paid job board service. I'm still investigating that. So far, not super impressed, but we'll see if that changes. I'm investigating it to sort of present to my audience, tell you whether or not I think it's worth it. Another one that I used to love when I got started and just don't anymore, haven't been active on there in years, is scripted.com. Just not a fan. Like it, I mean, the potential of the money you make is so small compared to the hassle you have to go through pitching clients. And then I think they pay you like a month after the work is done. And it's just, you know, for administrative purposes of tracking your invoices and all that, that loop was too long for me. I mean, I even fired a recurring client this year because she paid me by check 45 days after I had turned in the work. I mean, 45 days ago, I don't even remember that, but having that, you know, red mark in my invoicing system of, oh, we haven't been paid for this, the hassle of getting a check, like you can't just pay, you know, by PayPal. No, too difficult, not doing it. The fifth and final thing that I did that hasn't worked in my business, or at least hasn't worked yet. I mean, I know some freelancers swear by this, listing their profile on Contently, that's Contently. It's free, so no harm done listing your profile there. You can list everywhere you've been published, which is cool if you've got contributor rights at some place like Huffington Post, or you're a regular guest blogger somewhere else. But for me, I think my profile's been up there for 5 months, and I have not had one person reach out to me because of my Contently profile. So there's probably 15 or 20 articles of mine up there, Business Insider byline, Writers Weekly byline, regular guest posting, Huffington Post, my own website, nothing, just no interest. So maybe Contently only works for people in certain industries. I know that it hasn't worked for me. So this was just sort of a recap of 5 things that I've tried, and it didn't translate in my business. I fully own up to it. It could have been me not doing it properly. I've tried to always take advice from others, and then, you know, also follow a general marketing rhythm when I try to incorporate something new. And I do give it a fair shot. Like I said, I've been using this new site, Contena. Contena I've been on for maybe three months now, so I'm not writing it off yet. We'll see, but I just haven't felt like it's been worth it as of yet. So I try to give everything a fair shot before I tell you about it. So these were just 5 things that didn't work for me. Take it with a grain of salt. Next week, I'll be back with a video of things that really have worked for me in about the last year, in 2016, or even a little bit into 2015. So see you then.